They call him God in Silicon Valley, the one who will predict everything. Wars, terrorist attacks, earthquakes, economic crises, even who will fall in love with whom. Some say he is a prophet, others whisper that he's a dangerous heretic, but everyone agrees this man has access to the most powerful computer in the world. Welcome to our channel. Today we are answering the extraordinary question, what if a machine knows your fate? Would you obey it? And to answer it, we must meet the Oracle of Silicon Valley, the alleged predictor of all things possible, Professor Joshua Angerstoff. Angerstoff is the head of the Artificial Intelligence Laboratory at the University of Michigan, and the chief architect of an algorithm that can allegedly predict human behavior with 90% accuracy. Let's just say that his research has stirred up a hornet's nest among scientists and religious leaders alike. When asked what he thinks about Angerstoff's work, one scientist said, "This is not science, this is sorcery." On the other end of the spectrum, there are those who claim that Angerstoff is nothing less than a modern-day Nostradamus. So how does Angerstoff's algorithm actually work? Like any algorithm, it needs data. Lots and lots of data. So in 2007, Angerstoff and his team developed a way to gather massive amounts of information about people by tapping into their social media accounts. By analyzing the totality of a person's online activity, the algorithm was able to categorize them according to different variables, such as income level, political views, marital status, sexual orientation, race, and religion, among many others. But then something unexpected happened. The algorithm started to predict things that no one had ever told it. For example, after analyzing millions of Facebook posts, correctly predicted the outcome of the 2016 US presidential election with 86% accuracy. And it didn't stop there. The algorithm went on to accurately predict the results of numerous opinion polls with similar margins of error. As impressive as these predictions may sound, they were only the beginning. In 2017, Angerstoff presented a new version of his algorithm that could forecast individual behavior with 90% accuracy. He explained how his system could analyze all available data about a person, including but not limited to their digital footprint, and then make predictions about what they would do next. For example, if someone posted a picture of themselves at an airport, Angerstoff's algorithm could tell where they were going, who they were traveling with, and what airline they were flying with. It could also tell how much money they made, whether or not they had kids, and even what kind of car they drove. To be clear, none of this was based on anything the algorithm had been explicitly programmed to recognize. It all emerged organically from analyzing vast quantities of publicly available data. At this point, you might be wondering, how is this even possible? The answer, my friends, lies in the power of behavioral prediction. Behavioral prediction is a subfield of data mining that uses algorithms to predict future behavior based on past behavior. For example, if you've ever shopped on Amazon, they probably recommended a product or two based on what other customers with similar tastes and preferences have bought in the past. That's behavioral prediction in action. But what Angerstoff's algorithm does is far more complex. It analyzes every aspect of a person's life and then makes predictions about what they will do next, down to the very last detail. For example, the algorithm can analyze a person's Facebook posts to determine whether or not they're happy. If it determines that they're not, the algorithm can then recommend ways for that person to improve their mood, like listening to certain songs or spending time with certain people. And wouldn't you know it, those recommendations often lead to the predicted behaviors occurring. What's even more amazing is that this process happens in real time. That means that the algorithm can make predictions about what a person will do tomorrow, based on what they did today, what they did last week, based on what they did this week, and so on. And yet, despite its incredible accuracy, many people are deeply troubled by Angerstoff's algorithm. Why is that? Well, let's take a step back and look at what this technology really is. At its core, Angerstoff's algorithm is simply a very advanced form of predictive analytics. By analyzing vast amounts of data, it's able to identify patterns and trends that would otherwise go unnoticed. It can then use those patterns and trends to make accurate predictions about future behavior. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. In fact, predictive analytics is already used in many industries to great effect. For example, Netflix uses it to recommend movies and TV shows that you might like, based on your viewing history. Amazon uses it to recommend products that you might want to buy based on your shopping cart contents and your previous purchases. and Google uses it to show you relevant search results based on your search queries. In each of these cases, predictive analytics makes our lives easier and more efficient. It saves us time and energy that we would otherwise spend browsing through endless lists of options. It personalizes our experiences and tailors them to our individual needs and preferences. So why is Angerstoff's algorithm any different? Well, for one thing, the amount of data that it analyzes is far greater than anything that has come before it. The algorithm takes into account every aspect of a person's life, from their digital footprint to their demographics to their psychographics, leaves no stone unturned in its quest to understand human behavior. Another thing that sets Angerstoff's algorithm apart is its accuracy. It's able to make predictions with an astounding 90% accuracy, which is far higher than any other algorithm that has come before it. This level of accuracy means that the algorithm can be used to make decisions with real-world consequences. For example, businesses could use it to target potential customers with laser-like precision, or governments could use it to predict and prevent terrorist attacks. That last example brings us to the most important distinction between Angerstoff's algorithm and other forms of predictive analytics. It's not just that it analyzes more data or that it's more accurate. It's also that it raises fundamental questions about free will and determinism. You see, if a machine can predict your behavior with 100% accuracy, it means that there is no such thing as free will. Your every move is predetermined, and there's nothing you can do to change it. That's a terrifying thought because it means that we are nothing more than puppets, dancing to the tune of an algorithm. But don't worry, because Angerstoff claims that his algorithm doesn't pose a threat to free will. He says that humans are still in control of their actions, and that the algorithm is simply a tool that can help us better understand ourselves and the world around us. However, others are not so sure. They argue that if we allow machines to predict our behavior with 100% accuracy, we are giving up our autonomy and becoming slaves to the machine. Here's the bottom line. Angerstoff's algorithm is an incredible piece of technology that has the potential to revolutionize many industries. However, it also raises some serious ethical concerns that we need to address before we let it loose on the world. For example, what happens when a government gets hold of this technology? Imagine a world where every citizen is tracked and monitored 24/7, where the government knows your every move before you make it. It's a scary thought, but it's not impossible. In fact, it's already happening in some countries. Take China, for example. The Chinese government has been using facial recognition technology to track and identify citizens in public places. They've even developed a system that allows them to grade citizens based on their behavior. Those who score high are deemed trustworthy, and those who score low are labeled as untrustworthy. Imagine if Angerstoff's algorithm was used in a similar way. Governments could track their citizens' behavior, predict their every move, and take action to prevent any potential threats. In other words, they could create a surveillance state that would make George Orwell's 1984 look like a children's story. Of course, not all governments are like this. There are plenty of countries that value freedom and democracy and would never dream of using such technology. But what about the countries that don't? What about the countries that are willing to sacrifice freedom for security or convenience? The truth is, we can't predict what governments will do with this technology, but we do know that it's possible. That's why we need to be careful. We need to make sure that this technology is used responsibly and ethically. Otherwise, we risk giving up the very freedoms that make us human. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to subscribe and leave us a comment below to let us know what you think of the topic we discussed today. Also, check out our other videos which we think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching. See you next time.